Hello, this is Chione. Join me for a powerful half-day immersive in Milton, Delaware on June 26th. You will find your inner sanctuary by reconnecting with your authentic self through stillness, clarity, and deep grounding in nature. This 4-hour experience includes guided practices and bonus materials to support your journey. Spots are limited. Reserve yours today at www.quantumjourneygo.com/workshops. Find your inner sanctuary and return to yourself. Welcome to the Mystical Mermaid Lounge podcast, a space where all spiritual seekers are honored and celebrated. This podcast was born from the journeys of your hosts, who have each faced her own dark night of the soul, but they've emerged with an unshakable belief in divine connection, cosmic inspiration, and her true life's calling. Join us on a journey of personal growth, transformation, and magical self-discovery. Your first co-host is Chloe Brown, a gifted intuitive empath and shadow work life coach. Your second co-host is Chione Star, an intuitive energy worker and acclaimed past life regressionist. The Mystical Mermaid Lounge podcast starts now.
Welcome, everybody, today to the Mystical Mermaid Lounge. We are so excited to have Edward White here with us, who I have seen through social media, inspiring healing that blends personal training and energy work. Edward is a personal trainer and Reiki Master teacher from Las Vegas, Nevada, holding an ISSA certification as personal trainer, nutritional coach, and strength and conditioning specialist. His approach focuses on sustainable strength, mobility, and long-term resilience. Separately, Edward practices quantum and Usui Reiki, offering energetic work centered on regulation, awareness, and balance. Before this chapter of his life, he played in a punk band. That sounds like so much fun, and an experience that shaped his relationship with discipline, creativity, and self-expression. He is also a recovered alcoholic with 6 years of sobriety. Major congratulations. A journey that continued to inform his approach to self-awareness, responsibility, and growth. Outside of this work, Edward enjoys meditation, playing the guitar or the bass, and skateboarding, all of which influence how he relates to movement, creativity, and presence. Wow, you sound like a fun guy there, buddy.
I try to be. Yeah, the skateboarding part, that's sort of non-existent right now. Just, I don't have time.
So relatable. I forgot to mention my lovely co-host, Chione, is here with us today.
I am so happy that you're here with us, Ed. Chloe knows this. When she and I first started this podcast, we had listed a number of people, not names, but people we wanted to interview. And having someone who understood the combination of mind, body, spirit, and keeping all three of those well were high on our list. So we finally found you, and I can't be happier that you're here with us today and are willing to talk with us about not only your journey, but everything that you bring to the table.
I appreciate that, and I can't thank you guys enough for having me on.
I really, really want to dive in. Tell us a little bit about your story, how you got to this point in your life. Tell us a little bit about you, please.
For a little over a decade, like you mentioned, I was alcoholic. And towards the end of that, my mom had passed away. I like to think that's when this actually started, even though it didn't really jump, like it didn't start happening like right away. Like I still was drinking after she died. Her death shocked me, and she was alcoholic too. So that's why ultimately I decided to quit, because I didn't want to go down the same path. And even before she died, I was still at odds with my own mindset. I kept telling myself that I needed to stop. So I knew I had a problem. And so I did. And miraculously, I don't know if it was a divine intervention or something, but I ended up quitting on my own. I didn't have any support system. I was sort of embarrassed to have a problem. And yeah, so I didn't tell anyone that I was quitting. I didn't, make a big deal about it. I just quietly did it on my own. This was 2020, by the way, so right before the pandemic. In fact,
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
yeah, in fact, one of my friends, I told him that I had decided to quit drinking, and he goes, "Well, you picked a hell of a time to quit."
Yeah, because the
Because
world didn't have enough to go through. You had to pile more on your to-do list, huh? Good for
yeah,
you.
we were all in lockdown, and I kept hearing like alcohol sales were up because of it. I'm like, no, I can't. I'm not going to stop my progress now. I mean, I only quit like a month or two before it happened. But anyways, towards the end of that year, about in September, I had started exercising regularly, and I started taking my physical fitness more seriously. And then down that avenue, felt like I wanted to start helping other people. Initially to be able to quit, their addiction, and then to help them with their physical fitness by way of becoming a personal trainer. And then
Wow.
2024, just before Mother's Day, I had started getting into like podcasts like this. And I had wanted to start meditating. And so I was, doing my research, listening to podcasts, reading books. And I had wanted to start trying to communicate with my mom. Then I started meditating regularly, got curious about psychic abilities, and then eventually came Reiki. And here I am.
That is so cool. I jokingly say all the time that Reiki is the gateway
Mm.
to the metaphysical world. But I love that you kind of went into it knowing like, I'm going to do better for myself. And I know that I can help others in similar shoes and we can be healthy collectively and work together. Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
So it sounds like you weren't always into fitness. It just kind of spurred up at the same time
Yeah.
simultaneously.
Yeah. I was sober for probably the better part of the year by the time I started exercising. And I had just, I felt good, but I didn't feel good about my appearance. And so that's how that all started. It starts with the outside, and then eventually you start feeling better inside.
Yes. And what a healthy way to utilize the time. And I have to exhaust my brain sometimes. And I call it tricking myself.
Mm.
And keeping myself busy when I'm stressed out is definitely a coping mechanism. But to be able to use that in a healthy way, that's beautiful. And not only healthy, but helping others. That's really cool. Me personally, I hear ISA certification, personal trainer, nutrition coach, and I'm running the other direction because I just had my chocolate bar.
Honestly, there's nothing wrong with a chocolate bar here and there. I have my moments too. I was going to say, it's not like I'm pretty rigid with my nutrition, but there's a couple of nights that I'll have some ice cream. And then when the holidays come, forget it. It's all over. And then I fall off, and then I get back on track. I'm not that much different from everybody else.
Yeah, it's a journey, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm dying to know if your pursuit into psychic communication with your mom after she passed, or mediumship, how that panned out.
Well, when I first started reading about it and then actually trying to do it, I was totally new to it. I didn't know what to expect. So I had figured it was just going to be like this sort of different, like mind blowing experience. But the truth is, it's really just like Reiki energy. It's really subtle. I have gotten signs from her. I felt her energy. And even more recently, I had been in meditation and I had brought her into my energy field. And the way I knew she was there was my left side started feeling warm. And then I started giving her Reiki.
That's so cool. My mind is blown right now.
Yeah, with Reiki, I believe that you can heal the past, the present, the future. I gave it to my mom because not too far in the past, I had been on a TikTok live with a medium, and she was doing just one-off readings for people that were on the live, and she picked me, and my mom came in, and she had mentioned that my mom showed her like a journal that she was writing all these regrets down in. And so I just got the feeling like mom still wasn't at peace. Even in meditation, I kept telling my mom, like, I forgive you. And so the whole reason I gave her Reiki was just, I told her, you know what? You don't need to keep having regrets. And then I healed her through Reiki.
Could you feel a difference in her energy once you sent that Reiki energy to her?
I feel like it was lighter.
Nice. Beautiful.
Less than a week ago, had my Reiki 1 and 2 class. So I am asking because I'm curious, but I believe from my understanding, Reiki is unconditional love. I really like that you said that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. It kind of ties into my next question. You've mentioned that Reiki and sobriety have really helped you become more aware of your body. Can you walk us through what that looks like for you in your practice, how those work together and mesh?
Shortly after I had started learning Reiki, I started doing self Reiki. I had hovered my hand over, my solar plexus area, and I had started feeling a shift like where my liver is. And I mean, everybody knows alcohol affects the liver. And so I feel like I energetically healed my liver from all the toxins over the years. So that right there was it for me. I was all in on Reiki. And then I just started listening to my body a whole lot more. Like I started feeling my chakras spin. So clairsentience, that has developed a lot, not a lot more, but it's in the process of developing more. Like sometimes I'll feel things while I'm healing somebody else. And like, for instance, I'll start feel tingling in one of my legs, and I'll relate that to either the divine masculine or the divine feminine. And you start to look at what those different sides, what their qualities are or what they represent. And it sort of clues you into like what's going on with the client. And then one other time I was doing Reiki for someone, her left arm kept involuntarily moving out away from her body on its own. She wasn't actively doing it.
Did you get a sense for what was causing that? Meaning, was there any sort of disturbance or blockage that you were releasing?
At the time, I could not figure out what was going on.
For listeners who aren't familiar, can you explain the somatic awareness and how tuning into your body, how that has helped you personally with your anxiety?
So I was diagnosed with a generalized anxiety disorder back in 2019, same year that my mom passed away. I kept experiencing panic attacks, really, really horrible panic attacks. Like these panic attacks, they mimic the symptoms of a heart attack. In the moment when I'm having them, all I can do is focus on my breath. And a lot of the times that worked. And then I discovered humming. I discovered chanting mantras. And then there was one other time I felt one coming on and I decided to try self-Reiki, and that also helped.
Yeah, you have a lot of videos about those types of energetic clearing. And even before I did my Reiki classes, before I honestly even knew what it was, I was like, wow, I'm just going to try this. What do I have to lose? And it really did help relieve the tension that I was holding in this area. Yeah, I feel what you're saying to be very true. I'm so excited to share it with our listeners. You mentioned being clairsentient and empathic, I believe you said at some point.
Yeah.
With being clairsentient, which I find to be incredibly challenging because that is mine as well, and empathic, I believe it gives us, jokingly, I call it a superpower, but a unique perspective, realistically.
Mm-hmm.
Do you allow that to play a role when you're working with your clients, regardless of how or what exactly brought them to you? Or do you try to keep it the same every time?
When I'm working with someone, I just let whatever is wanting to happen, I just let it happen. It's really subtle. Most of the time, like I was talking about how different parts of my body, I'll start feeling sensations. Most of the time that won't happen. In my history of doing Reiki so far, it's very rare. And I think more so it has happened when I'm doing distance sessions versus in person. I'm not quite sure why, but that's how it's played out.
I wanted to ask you a question about your empathy. Because a lot of people with addiction issues, substance use issues, have a lot of empathy. And it's been found that is one of the way that we cope is through kind of numbing our senses so that we don't feel so deluged all the time. And so instead of protecting our energy, we're numbing it. And so I wondered if you've noticed that could have been one of the reasons that you started drinking, and how has your empathic and clairsentient abilities changed since you were sober?
I was never really sure why I started drinking. I mean, there's the external factors like, you're just starting to feel depressed because of whatever. You feel like you can't get ahead in life or whatever it may be. But looking back, I feel like that's exactly why I was drinking, was to numb everything. I think more often than not, that's probably why other people start doing substances or drink anyway. I feel like that's why my mom also was drinking too. I feel like my mom could have been a really good psychic.
A lot of prognostication abilities, or just kind of knew things that you wondered how she knew them?
Well, one thing that she'd always talk about is that her ear would start ringing. And I've started to notice that happens with me as well. And I've related that to clairaudience. And so, because I also have a cousin who's a psychic medium, so it's kind of running in the family. I don't have a lot of people like that in my family. What I would have believed my mom was capable of, and then also my cousin on her side of the family as well. And then as far as empathy goes, personal training and Reiki have really allowed me to show an even deeper level of it.
It makes sense, right? Because you're working so directly within energy fields as far as trying to improve functionality, to improve strength, whatever the goal is. And then also personal training with others and being in their energy field so intimately, especially showing someone like how to do a tricep pull down or, how to bench. I mean, you're literally helping them. You're in their space. And I had a personal trainer who told me she was able to smell death. And I remember one time I was working out with her and someone walked past and she got this very concerned look on her face. And I knew exactly what was going on. She hated it. She had been trying to cut it off since she was a kid, but I pretty soon figured out how many gym memberships would be dropping whenever she was around. Just kidding, Ed.
Yeah, well,
But I mean, but she was in that energy field, right? So, and as people pass by, and it's all that energy of everybody in the gym.
right.
Kind of swirling around.
Yeah, personal training. I've also learned to pick up on my clients' emotional states. Some of the things they tell me, it just triggers something in me that it just wants me to show them like the most compassion I've ever shown anyone else. Because I've had older clients that will tell me, because they're older, they're in like their 70s or their 80s. And one of them said one time that, well, they're so old now, why bother trying to stay active and, fix whatever she had going on? And I felt like crying. I'm like, are you kidding? This does not stop just because you're older.
And that she would feel like her life was not worth being the best that she could be for however long it lasts.
Yeah, she left me speechless, and I'm just like, are you kidding? It just makes me really feel for him.
Hello, this is Chione. Join me for a powerful half-day immersive in Milton, Delaware on June 26th. You will find your inner sanctuary by reconnecting with your authentic self through stillness, clarity, and deep grounding in nature. This 4-hour experience includes guided practices and bonus materials to support your journey. Spots are limited. Reserve yours today at www.quantumjourneygo.com/workshops. Find your inner sanctuary and return to yourself.
Yeah, I would have cried, given her a big hug without asking for permission first, which is a big no-no in my world because I'm not a hugger. And then probably took off because I didn't know how else to console them because it would affect me so much. Like that's powerful that you can be there for people like that and you can show them there's hope in any direction. And I love that you do have the clairs in any capacity and the empathy and the knowledge to uplift and support them in whatever way their soul needs it in that moment. So I love that you're doing this because I do feel like this is, one of those categories in life that you either understand it or you're pretty intimidated by it, even if you've had several personal trainers or have gym memberships, it can be a very intimidating atmosphere.
Yeah. And before I started doing any of this, I was like introverted to my core. And I still am, but I've definitely broken out of the shell within the last couple of years. I think it just took this type of stuff for me to be able to do it because it fulfills me like nothing else.
I want to witness that, Ed, because especially if you are an introvert and being around people a lot can be really draining on your energy source. So I want to witness that and the goal that you have to really bring people up. And the second thing that I want to witness that I don't think that you may not even be fully aware of how powerful it is that people are vulnerable when they go to the gym and get a trainer. And to have someone who can work with an individual at their functional level and want to help them improve in whatever way that means for them. Is your 85-year-old going to look buff within a year? Absolutely not. Are they going to be able to carry their pocketbook and a bag of groceries? Yes. And that's vulnerable. My mom is 87 years old and went to personal training and was scared to death that the personal trainer was going to think less of her because she was so old. She was a lost cause, blah, blah, blah. I've never met a personal trainer that has behaved that way, at least in front of their clients. But I can tell that you have that sense of just wanting people to feel into their bodies as best they can.
Every client, I just meet them where they're at and we go from there. There's no judgment. There's some preconceived notions that I have about my clients before I train them as far as like what they can physically do. But if we go through it and they have pushback because they have a problem with it, then I don't force them to keep doing it. If you can't do something, you can't do it. So we'll backtrack and do something easier and then work our way up to that point. There's no cookie cutter way of helping everyone. It's highly individual.
I am in shock and awe that you're able to do all of these things as an introvert. I'm very much an extrovert, and I don't know that I could keep up with that type of daily interaction with energy. So kudos to you for having a mission and really embracing it and owning yourself, but not at the sacrifice of yourself. So definitely want to witness that. That's very important and hard to do.
Yeah. I find that working with people individually is a lot easier for me than I had figured it would be versus like crowds or groups. I'm also going to start getting involved with group fitness classes, which is fine because I've learned to use humor. And so it sort of takes the edge off. And I've also done like workshops. And so I've been up in front of people, speaking. It doesn't mean I'm not nervous every time, but as long as I know what I'm talking about, it'll work.
Group fitness is really sidebar. That's how I lost 200 pounds. For me, it was the community that kept me there and the fun, like they gave me permission to have fun in my already very scheduled, busy day. And so for me, it checked all of the logistics of why I can do it. And the energy just kept me there. And yeah, that's really cool. That's really fun. Hopefully one day when I'm in Vegas, I'll have to pop in and see what kind of class you're hosting that day. I've never been to Vegas, which is so weird.
I think, Ed, you should hold a class for all flat ass people. And we could all come together. No, seriously. Like everybody work on the same problem and keep each other energized. Do a lot of deadlifts. I know Chloe thinks this is funny. There are a lot of people that struggle with this. It's just an idea. I've struggled with this all my life. So
I think there's a lot of people that would be interested.
no, I actually do. I'm not kidding. Because especially people who sit all day, it's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And no, it's not aesthetically pleasing. But that's the least of it. I mean, your core is weak. Yeah, my core is, not yours.
That segues actually into this next question I have for you. It is perfect. I was wondering if you had a suggestion for us or our listeners on how to start tuning into their bodies and energy. I think everybody already does it a little bit, but I don't necessarily think most people recognize it and aren't sure where to begin. So just a simple practice that you would recommend. Let's say I walked in and I wanted help connecting with my body. What would you give us advice on?
I would walk you through a body scan meditation.
Would you mind doing that, or at least telling us a little bit about it?
I can do it. You want me to take you through one right now? So the way that I typically do this is I start from the toes and I work all the way up to the top of your head. Take 3 deep breaths in, letting that exhale go longer than your inhale, emptying all the air out of your lungs. And then as I name each body part, I want you to put your awareness there without movement. So put your awareness on your toes and affirm to yourself that your toes are relaxed. The bottom of your feet, your heels, ankles, the tops of your feet, the lower legs, the knees, the upper legs, your pelvis, abdominals, lower back, the chest, the upper back, shoulders, upper arms, elbows, forearms, the wrists, palms of your hands, the backs of your hands, your thumbs, index fingers, middle fingers, ring fingers, and pinky fingers, the back of your neck, your throat, your ears, lower jaw, the back of your head, the left cheek, the right cheek, your nose, the left eye, the right eye, your forehead, and the crown of your head. Notice any sensations, any vibrations. Your body is fully relaxed. Mind is awake. When you are ready, slowly open your eyes. Wiggle your fingers and toes. And bring yourself back to the present moment. I think in doing that meditation, what we're doing is we are waking up our energy bodies. If you start to feel those vibrations, the tingling, that's your energy body.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. Thank you for doing that.
Mhm.
So we've talked a lot about the journey and your professional path outside of work. It sounds like you meditate, play music, and skateboard. How do you practice supporting your presence? How do you allow and find time to still have fun in our very busy day?
It's pretty challenging. Fun is working out. So that's probably a large source of my time spent that is fun. I'll watch the occasional movie here and there. Sometimes I'll take my wife out on a date.
I bet she loves that.
For a while there, it was every Friday night, and then I had started on a caloric deficit and I sort of cut it out. But we'll still be going out here and there.
It is important though, just for you to go do something that's outside of just the norm.
Mhm.
Good for you for making that a priority.
And I love that I had a suspicion you would say a lot of what you do is part of your fun. So that I love how you're able to, at this stage, at this time, we'll say, because it is ever changing. But at this time, you're able to find a way to mix the mundane and the fun and still live in your most authentic life. And I think that's, a lot of our mission here is to remind people that we can be united as long as we trust our own selves and allow others to be theirs. And I just think it's so cool because I agree. I cannot wrap my head around having a safe space in the gym as somebody who's always been very heavy my whole life. Those two words don't go together. So I think it's so cool that we are finding a world and a space and a time where we can make those two blend together. So it's more open and inclusive to everybody, no matter where we're at in our path.
Yeah, if you or anyone else are like having their doubts about going to the gym, I mean, you just have to realize that everybody else is there for the same reason you are. Just because they look muscular or they look like they're in shape, that doesn't mean they started that way. Nobody is judging you at the gym because they're all worried about everybody else judging them. So everybody's just there working out and they're all worried about everybody else. So the way to break that is just focus on you, focus on your workout, and sort of make it an active meditation. That's what I do. I think of my weightlifting, I like to lift weights, and so I treat it as an active meditation.
I love that. Can I get your advice on what you would recommend for someone who is scheduled to the hilt? And the workout is the one thing when it comes down to everything that they just feel like, okay, I'll just let that go for one day. And then, of course, it turns into 2, it turns into 3. And I've fallen victim to that myself, especially when it's freezing cold outside. It's like, oh, the last thing I want to do is go out in the wind. I've got so much to do. So what would you recommend to stay motivated?
Make your workout something that you see yourself having fun doing, and then change it up every so often so you don't get bored with it or add to it.
Yeah, that's helpful. Make it new, always constantly learning something a little bit different. And I also think we fall to the idea that for the normal person, not the personal trainer, but for the normal person, that we have to be there for an hour or 2 hours in order to make a difference.
No, you don't. You can get a lot accomplished in 30 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes.
I'm glad to hear you say that.
Even if, I mean, if you don't have any equipment at all, like if you don't have access to a gym, no equipment, use your own body.
Yeah.
And
Feel like the military. Yeah.
yeah,
Military workout. Yeah.
there are ways to build muscle and get your heart rate up with just your body.
What do you think is so important about being fit? Whatever level that is so important to our spiritual growth and development.
I believe that our spirit is inhabiting the body. It's not our body. And so in order for us to be more connected spiritually, you want to have a healthy body. If you're unhealthy, your energy won't be grounded. You'll start experiencing negative emotions because of how you feel, how you look.
You're right. The vessel, right? The vessel for the spirit.
And that doesn't mean you have to look like all these people that are in advertisements or the fitness magazines. You don't have to have like 100 pounds of muscle, pure, like you don't have to be super ripped. You don't have to have like the roundest ass.
Yeah, I want the biggest booty. Yeah. Because number one, it takes a while to build muscle so that it becomes noticeable.
Yeah.
Or if your goal is to lose fat or to become more fit in any way, it takes time. And so people get frustrated.
Yeah, definitely. It's not a waiting game. It's small daily steps towards that bigger end goal. You set smaller goals on the way to that bigger end goal to keep you going instead of constantly looking out at that future you that's the end. And on that note, there is no end to this. You're constantly going to be working on yourself because if you found that version of you that's like the ultimate end all be all, then what's left?
Definitely agree. I think I would also be very upset with myself if I didn't add to this conversation that healthy is very different for every single person, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like, I'm going to tell a short little story that just happened yesterday at work. I had a delivery driver come in and said, "Oh, I'm covering for so-and-so. They're out today. I wish this wasn't the case because I have somewhere else I'd rather be." And I said, I actually really have compassion and empathy for that particular individual. They have a lot of health problems currently that they've had essentially their whole life. And this driver's response was, "I see how she looks, so she gets what she gets." Now, as somebody who was recently over 400 pounds, I can feel my blood boiling and my heart racing now just telling you guys this story again. And so I had to do some breath work for a quick second, but there was no way I couldn't say anything. So instead of losing my cool, like my old self would have done, I tried to approach it in a way that would actually maybe plant a seed of change. So I said, "I understand your perspective. However, it might be smart to think maybe in a different path. Like perhaps it isn't what she's eating. Perhaps it's an underlying issue. For example, because I work in the auto body industry, when we take our car to get oil changes or work on our car, we're doing preventative maintenance, right? In her case, the food, it might be masking something. What we really need to be talking about if we want to have this conversation with her instead of behind her back in a distasteful way, perhaps we could look at the underlying issues and what's going on, whether it's mental, emotional, or mental health. And who are we to say? We're just coworkers of hers. Anyway, so all that to say, healthy looks different for everybody, and we're all on a different path. And I know I constantly bash myself in my own mind about what healthy looks like, but I need to remember that I was over 400 pounds and that now that I'm 178, 170, whatever, like, yeah, that's not ideal. That's not my permanent place for me, but I've come so far. And instead of being harsh, we need to recognize that positive in others.
Yeah, you have to just look at it like I was saying. You've already come so far. Like I said, there's never going to be the most perfect you. Fitness is a long game. It's for your entire life because you're never going to stop. The moment you stop exercising or eating healthy, then every gain, every result you've gotten will start to fade away. So if you stop, then you're going to eventually just go back to ground zero and have to start all over again. It's definitely a long game. And at some point, you'll probably start coming up on the maintenance level of your fitness, but still, you should always try to challenge yourself to be even better.
I agree on every level of life. Personally, it's my own mantra. I love that. Are there any upcoming projects or classes or offerings that you're excited to talk about or that we could share with our listeners?
I am a personal trainer, and I also do Reiki out of the YMCA of Southern Nevada here in Las Vegas, the Durango Hills location. I will be holding a Reiki meditation workshop in which I help you call in your spirit guides, and your spirit guides will be doing Reiki for you.
That is so cool.
And then a coworker and me will also be doing sound bowls. We'll be doing a sound bath.
I need to get to Vegas for a visit. That sounds awesome. What's funny is I have no intent on doing like the party drinking, like what everybody thinks of Vegas. So for me, it's like such a different concept, but it is funny to me that I have never been to Vegas, seeing as though I'm actually born in Reno. So it's just really weird that I've never been to Vegas. And flights out of our little tiny town, I think, are like $59, and all my friends go all the time. So I don't know why I haven't yet.
It is interesting. You work in Party Central, you live in Party Central. And so you're kind of like this undercurrent, right? Because people don't go to Vegas to work out.
No.
How do you square that, with the energetic vibe of Vegas versus being one of self-care? I mean, really self-care that you were talking about.
If I may use the F word.
You may.
Okay, I stay the fuck off the strip. There's casinos all over the place out here, but I mean, the strip is like, it's the heart chakra of Las Vegas.
It is. So
Actually,
you stay away. Yeah.
I actually wrote that in my notes earlier to bring up is how a sober introvert lives in Vegas doing holistic inner healing. The beauty and irony, I think, in that is pretty awesome.
Yeah. I know where I shouldn't go, and I know where I am wanted or needed. And so that's how I distinguish where to stay away and where to be.
I love that. I just wanted to remind listeners that all of his contact information will be in the show notes, but for auditory purposes, his website is www.reikirecovery.co, and on Instagram and TikTok at reiki.recovery, just so it's there. At the close of each of our episodes, we ask our guest if they want to leave a mantra, an affirmation, or just words of wisdom for our listeners.
Yeah, so I'd like to borrow a quote, if I may. I think it really fits how I had started down this path perfectly. It's by Carl Jung. The quote is, "Life really does begin at 40, and up until then, you are just doing research."
Man, I already loved you before, but now we really love you.
Well, I like the quote because it really fits, like I said, how I began down this path, and then it helps to reframe everything that we think of as mistakes.
Right.
Like, it sort of softens the regrets we have.
Yeah. It propelled you to where you are now.
Yeah.
So it was a journey, not a mistake. Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. It was such a wonderful pleasure, and keep us posted. We would always love to hear updates on you.
Will do.
Thanks for diving into the depths with us today. If you enjoyed this episode, Show your support at buymeacoffee.com/Mystical Mermaid Lounge, as every little ripple helps keep the magic flowing. Would you like some more deep, soul yearning conversations? Well, then swim on over to our sister podcast, Past Lives Cafe, where Chione deep dives into those past life experiences. Also, we'd love to hear from you. Please don't forget to rate and review and drop your feedback and comments at our website, mysticalmermaidlounge.buzzsprout.com. Thank you again so much, and don't forget to catch us at the next high tide. Bye-bye.